welcome to Just Us Thinking. I'm your host, Michael.
And I'm your co-host, Rebecca.
And I'm your AV guy, Mikey.
And we have a good show, but first...
This is Christine.
This is Jessie.
And we are the hosts of the podcast Dark Mysteries.
Please come join us every Monday for
some crazy true crime,
some spooky paranormal,
and of course it wouldn't be complete without some weird and creepy.
You can find us on Spotify.
Of course on Patreon.
As well as Amazon and many others.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
And back to our show here.
Yes, we are.
Now let's introduce our guest.
All right, today we have Chad with us again.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Chad. Now we have a new, a new adventure here going on, right?
We do have a new adventure.
Tell us about our adventure here.
Yeah, so our new adventure is going to be TAAP, the American Armory podcast. It's going to be all things Pew Pew life, Second Amendment stuff, things along those lines. We're going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be all video. We'll do some shooting probably at some point, but it's going to be targeted towards anyone that's new to firearms, all the way up to people that are real experienced.
And we're going to focus a lot on safety.
Yes.
That's one of our biggest things is safety, good habits.
Yes, safety, building good habits, introducing someone to firearms. That's one of the shows that we'll have, and things that you want to do to build those good habits and instill that safety from the start.
All right. That sounds like that's going to be fun.
It will be fun. I think we'll have a good time with it.
So
it is definitely going to be fun watching you two with this.
So now here's what we're going to do today. Since we have Chad here, and we're getting ready to what TAAP's going to be launching here pretty quick. So we figured we'd cover the teachers Packin heat.
Yes, we are.
So just to give you an idea of what this means, Iowa has just passed a law that now. Here's what people think. They think it's a law that just allowed teachers to carry a firearm. Now, Chad, that's not entirely true, is it?
No. So there's this law was signed by their governor, Kim Reynolds, in middle of April. I don't know the exact date, but it was middle of April. And essentially, it is going to allow any teacher, school staff, resource officer who wants to carry a firearm to be able to carry a firearm, as long as they complete specific things that need to be done.
Interesting.
Okay. Yeah, and there's a laundry list of what needs to be done. I guess what are the things? Well, I guess so. If I'm a teacher and I decide, and I'm in Iowa, I'm not, but I'm in there. What do I have to go through to say, yep, I'm going to do that?
So this is for all teachers or school staff in Iowa, K through 12, both public and private. Community colleges, public and private colleges, and universities. So it runs the gambit of the educational system.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, if you want to be able to do this, you have to get what they're referring to as a professional permit.
Okay.
So this professional permit, the requirements are you have to go through a special training that includes a one-time in-person legal training covering qualified immunity, which I really like that they're giving them qualified immunity. That's important, I think. It also covers emergency medical training, communication training, as well as quarterly firearm training and an annual live scenario training.
Wow. Okay.
So they're getting some training.
That's important, and we'll discuss that a little bit later here. So there's a lot of training that goes in there.
Yes.
Now, this also includes resource officers, off-duty police officers, all of that too, right?
So I believe it includes resource officers. For Iowa, I didn't find anything that specifically called out off-duty police officers.
Okay.
And that it may be that the law in Iowa already allows that, so they didn't need to include it.
Okay. So, and a resource, what is actually a resource officer?
It's basically like the school security.
Okay.
Basically.
So it's basically the school private security. And that could be an off-duty police officer. It could be a private security company. It could be...
I
think it's usually just like a district employee, isn't it? Like a school employee?
I don't know.
It depends. I know when I was in high school, they just started with this, and the resource officer that we had, or at least one of them, he was a former defensive lineman in the NFL, so he wasn't a small guy that you wanted to mess with, even if you didn't have a firearm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this in Iowa, the law has passed.
Yes.
Okay.
It's passed. It's been signed by the governor. Unless there's a waiting period, it's in effect.
Okay.
About time.
So now let's switch over to our state, Nebraska. Now, it's in process in our state now, right?
Right. There is a bill that was submitted and proposed. It's still in that debating stage. For any of you that don't know Nebraska, it takes forever. We have one house, the unicameral. You would think they get things done quick. They take forever to get anything through that. It's, well, I have to debate it in this committee, then we have to debate it in that committee, and then we have to go to the floor, and then we have to go back to committees, and then 3 years later we might vote on it.
Oh,
Right.
wow.
So, but it is in the works in Nebraska.
Yes.
And I'm going to gather most of these laws all are kind of worded about the same.
Yeah, and the ones that I've looked at, they're all worded the same, where it's, you have the option, nothing is mandatory saying that teachers have to. And when I say teachers, it's all school staff.
Right.
It's if they want to. It's also if they can complete the training.
Right.
And the training for all the ones I've looked at looks like it's pretty similar, where you have to go through several different layers of training. A lot of it includes communication and trying to talk someone down so you don't have to draw and discharge that firearm.
Oh, that's
Right.
good.
But then they also do focus on, if you have to, being able to hit your target, being aware of your surroundings, knowing what's behind your target. One of the big rules of firearm safety right there.
Right. And there's I guess the other thing that, I guess, I don't know, there's 32 other states that have already passed a law that is very similar to this, right?
Right.
So that means 32 other states. That's a majority of states that are already crossing it. So what Iowa did is not nothing new. They're not groundbreaking.
No.
Okay.
And really, this is something that, to my knowledge, happened very recently, and it's been happening very fast.
And that's what I've seen too. Here's the thing. I know the wheels of making laws really change quite a bit. I guess what it comes down to here as well is generally you start to see this when you see something roll, it rolls pretty quick. I want to say Nebraska and Iowa kind of seem to be behind the ball when it comes to implementing new laws.
They are. And to give everyone an idea, Nebraska hasn't passed this yet. Like I said, it's in session. They're talking about it. All of Nebraska's surrounding states have already passed a law like this.
Oh, wow.
Iowa was the last one to kind of put a circle around us.
Yeah, I figured, Nebraska usually waits until the last minute to pass anything like that.
Nebraska doesn't like to be groundbreaking.
Yeah.
No, we're definitely not a groundbreaking state. I could tell, and we touched a little bit on with marijuana. Most of it's around us illegal. Nebraska, no.
Right.
Gambling. You go across. you go to
No,
every
send
state
all the money to
around.
Iowa. We don't want it.
Yeah.
We just do that here in Nebraska. Iowa's a little quicker.
To take something out of the PP world, we tend to shoot ourselves in the foot a lot when it comes to stuff like this.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. So Nebraska, and the way these laws are going right now, Nebraska then or Iowa then Nebraska. That's typically how it goes. We're kind of we're the caboose of this train.
Yeah, we're the ones running behind saying, "Wait for me, wait for me."
Yep.
Oh,
So
yeah.
32 other states already have it.
I do want to go back to something about Iowa, because there are a couple of things that I found when I was researching their law that I think are really important for the states that do this to do. And like I said, I don't know as much about the other states just because they're not as close to me. I mean, we're a stone's throw from Iowa where we are. So
Yeah.
Right.
one thing I really like is it's not public record. Any staff member who gets this professional carry permit is completely confidential and exempt from Iowa schools' public law
That's kind of
or
cool.
public records law. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no one knows who has this.
Okay.
Unless they tell. I'm sure people will know in the school, other staff and stuff, but it's not something where you can go and look it up online and
Right. And I kind of like that. I don't want, because that takes away any kind of targeting or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
the other thing I wanted to touch on is Iowa has a follow-up bill that is actually on Governor Reynolds' desk right now. It's passed through their houses and Senate, and it's on her desk to sign. And that is going to allow the school districts to appropriate funds to teachers for this training and potentially to purchase even a firearm. I know that the firearm was talked about in a couple different versions, and I don't know the final version if they decided that was a go or a no-go. But the fact that they're going to potentially allow, if this gets signed, which I think it will, they're going to allow teachers to have some of this training or all of this paid for by the school district. I think that's going to be good because most teachers don't make a lot of money. Plus, they supply so much for their classes anyway that they don't have a lot of extra money to spend. So, if this is something they want the school district picking up the tab for, part or all of it is really good.
That is a good thing, yeah.
So now, and I read something in the law too when I was going through it. And in there it said that these teachers are going to undergo a background check.
Okay.
What?
Well, I mean, you usually have to anyway to get like a concealed carry, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean...
Well, in most states, if you're going to be an educator, you have to go through a background check anyway.
So... I guess if you have to already go through the background check, saying you have to go through another background check, I guess that's where, and people that are not in the gun community or anything like that, I guess we chuckle with that because, here in Nebraska, we got a concealed carry permit, okay? And we chuckle at the signs on the door that say, don't conceal carry here, or there's some signs that say, concealed carry is okay, don't open carry. And we chuckle with these, these things that say with training and stuff like that. So if you have a concealed carry permit, you have gone through you've gone through a background check. You've gone through all kinds of checks and balances. So when I see these businesses put up these signs that say can't carry concealed in here, my first thought is, well, if I have a concealed carry permit, I've been training, I've been shooting, I've gone through background checks and all kinds of stuff. Criminals don't do that.
Right. Well, criminals don't pay attention to signs either.
And that's the other thing is, and this is why these laws are starting to come into, because people have gone into these schools and have done horrible things. And kids, previous teachers, there's a gambit of random people.
And here's I'll go back to what you said about business saying no firearms allowed. Don't bring that in here. And the same thing goes for schools when, every school was you get in the school zone, no firearms allowed. All right, that makes for a soft target. If people would do their research, they'd realize that if someone's going to go commit a mass shooting, they're going to go find a soft target. Very rarely does a criminal go to a place where they know other people are going to have firearms.
Yeah.
The reality is no one's going into the police departments to do a mass shooting in a police department.
No.
And there's a reason. And the reason is because
they're not going to get very far.
Yeah. So now this is going to get into little feelings. Now, Chad, you're a parent. I'm a parent.
Yep.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Mikey's our kid. So now,
well, he's your kid, not mine.
Well, yeah. you can.
I've got my own. I didn't sign up for that.
You didn't read the contract when you agreed to do this show.
Apparently not. I didn't know Mikey was a package deal with doing the show as a guest.
Yeah. Sorry, you saw it. No. How do you feel about guns? How do you feel about this new law?
So I'm all for it.
Okay.
Even if I wasn't as big of a gun person as I am, I'd be all for it.
Okay.
Main reason again is it's protecting the children.
Right.
Anyone that wants to, as a member of school staff, take part in this has to go through extensive training.
Right.
It's not a, hey, go take this online course and you're certified.
Yeah.
It's from what I've read on it, it's several hours of training, and then
more than
certify.
Several hours.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But and just the initial training is going to be several hours. Then you have the quarterly training and the annual training that they're doing in Iowa.
Yep.
So it's not like you're going to have people that have firearms in the school and don't know how to handle them.
Right.
They don't know how to keep them safe.
Now, Rebecca, you're a mother, and you have other people that, you have kids, nephews, nieces.
Yeah.
One of them was at a school when they had a shooting, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel?
I would say I would have to agree with Chad. It's not like they're just handing them a gun and saying, here, go,
Right.
Here, go protect the school. They're going through training. They're learning, different ways to even, talk people down, and that kind of stuff. I think it's good.
So one of the arguments I heard was these teachers are, they're going to be trained to do this stuff, that we're putting these teachers in a bad position as far as they're an educator and they're trying to help, and and the scenario I heard was, so I'm a teacher and I'm helping Timmy, with his homework, and I've watched Timmy grow up, and then, in his senior year, Timmy comes in with a gun and tries to shoot up the school. Now, I was an educator. I've tried to help Timmy out all this time. How, as a teacher, am I going to be conflicted on popping Timmy in the ass?
I'd hope, one, you're not going to shoot him in the ass.
Well,
center mass.
Yeah.
Double tap.
Well,
But that the point is
Right.
How can I, now that's a kid that I've nurtured and done all this stuff with. How can I now say I'm going to take Timmy out?
I think that's a good question to ask, but you got to also ask at the same time, how many other kids are you saving?
Exactly. It's
and how many other lives are you saving versus just Timmy?
you've already done everything you could to try and save Timmy, and Timmy made that choice.
Right.
Yeah.
So now you've got to save all the other students.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can see how that would be hard. My mother was a teacher all her life. Now, my mother wasn't a gun person, so she probably would pass on this, but I know the care that these teachers put into their students. I've seen my mom be torn up because something happened to one of her students and things like that.
Right.
So I can understand where you'd have that personal conflict. But I also think that hopefully they're going through enough training that in that time, that part of your brain shuts off, and it's, I need to stop the threat.
Yeah.
So now, and I agree with you, and I agree with both of you here. I would say when it comes down to that, I will tell you, I want that. I would rather have that teacher ask that question up front, because when they ask that question up front, that tells me that that's probably the person that I want to carry a firearm, because they have that, they're trying to understand it. I don't want to give a gun to a teacher that he's like, yep, I'm gonna show you, and just,
I'm gonna shoot every last one of them.
Yeah, he's saying, get off my lawn. I don't want that teacher to have the gun.
You're not going to detention, Timmy. You're going to hell.
Yeah, see there, it could get kind of crazy. So I guess it's, I kind of want that conflict. Here's my problem with the laws right now. I see nothing, absolutely nothing in any of the laws that help with the trauma that's going to happen on the back end.
Oh, yeah.
And I've not read any of the laws fully all the way through. I've read highlights of a couple different ones. I am sure that part of it is going to fall under the regular counseling that they have for if there is some sort of event at the school, or if there's a student or a faculty member that passes away suddenly or is violently killed or whatever happens. Schools have things built into place, just like at work we've got things built into place for if there's a sudden death, things like that. You've got crisis counselors and grief counselors and a whole process set up for that.
I really hope there is, but I don't want to get into a situation where we go, okay, it happened, oh oops, we didn't think of that.
No, and that's
I hate that's the problem with a lot of the laws is they don't think they try to get these laws in there to get them implemented, but they never really think of the aftermath for these.
Well, and my biggest concern with the first time that a teacher has to draw their gun and shoot a student, be it in Iowa or any other state that has this, is you have now instantly increased the potential suicide rate of that teacher.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they're going to be grief stricken.
Right.
They're not going to know how to handle it. Police officers who are trained to potentially have to do this, people in the military who are trained to potentially have to do this, have a hard time with it after they have to do it.
Right. And that's where it comes into is, I will tell you, if you were a teacher and you have to pull your firearm, and I don't care if you're heralded as a hero and you saved everyone in your class, there's going to be a problem with that, because that there are going to be people on the other side that do not like this, and I mean, it's going to cause problems.
The inner turmoil that I would have if I was a teacher and I had to do that. I had to draw my firearm and shoot and kill a student. First thing I'm doing is I'm clearing my firearm so that it's safe, putting it back in the holster, and then I'm going to go find a closet, and I'm going to probably have a breakdown.
Yeah.
And I'd probably lose my shit.
Well, and you also got to think, like consequences from like the rest of the community that maybe don't back these laws. And, they come after the teacher after the fact. But
Well, this is going to be horrible what I'm going to say, but I don't think teachers get enough respect.
Yeah.
Pop a kid that tried to do a school shooting. I guarantee you, when you tell your students to put their phones down,
you're going to go walk into the classroom and see how many notches they have on the door frame.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, the reality, I mean, we joke around about it.
It's a serious matter.
You have to joke a little bit, but I will tell you that you could pretty much say your teaching career is over at that point, don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it would be.
I don't think you come back from that.
From a legal standpoint, I definitely don't think it would be, as long as it was legitimate and you did what you had to do.
Right.
The emotional standpoint of that, if I was a teacher, I probably definitely wouldn't be able to go back to that school. I'd have a really, really hard time going back to that school. I'd probably have to transfer to another school.
Yeah.
The community, you're going to have people that are clapping you on the back, and you did a great thing. You saved a bunch of kids. Probably never have to buy a drink in a bar for the rest of your life in that town.
Yeah.
But you're also going to have the other side that, well, why didn't you just talk to him? Why didn't you give him a hug?
Well, if he was pointing a gun in your face, would you give him a hug? No.
Yeah. See, now here's the other thing is, and this is what I think they should do. They should put a big old sign up front that says, "Our teachers are armed. Do you feel lucky?"
Enter at your own risk.
Yeah. Because here's what I think. I think it should be more of a deterrent. I would like anybody that's wanting to go in there and shoot up a school. I want a warning up there and saying, hey, dumbass, if you do this.
I've seen signs on schools that essentially say, our staff is armed and will use force.
Oh, well, yeah. See, now that I like.
Yeah.
Now this is just not teachers. We said resource officers and all kinds of other
school
stuff.
staff.
So now people are also saying, well, maybe we should leave law enforcement and, maybe these firearms to police officers. And what I have to say is, as far as police officer training, there are departments that you have to qualify once a year. So you go through the police training. It's like 6 months to 9 months, depending on what department it is. So you get all that training up front. Now, that training is not just all firearms.
Right.
There's everything. You're going to learning law. You're going to drive. You're going to do. There's physical ed. There's takedowns. There's all kinds of stuff. So when you think police officer training, you're not thinking, well, they're just training with their gun for 6 months and they're this expert shooter.
Right.
That's not the case. And they only have to qualify with most departments every year. security and private investigators, and they have to qualify generally once a year. Some states, they just have to qualify once.
Yeah.
For Nebraska, for a concealed carry, for just Joe Blow, we have to qualify on the range. We take a course. We take a, 8 to 16 hour course here, depending on the state. You qualify once. They just have to make sure that you're not, doing anything stupid.
Right.
It's very hard not to pass the
I don't know
course.
of anyone that hasn't passed.
Yeah.
I haven't heard, but I'm sure there's a few. I mean, and I'm hoping they didn't go again. So when you go through that, the police officer training is not as much. What we're talking about here with Iowa teachers and these laws that are going through, quarterly shooting, that is better training than the police department.
Right. Yeah, you have to qualify quarterly.
What the hell?
They have live training scenarios annually.
Yeah. See, most police departments don't get that good at training. So I have to say the training is better than what police officers get, I tell you.
Well,
which is sad.
Well, that and the response time. I mean, you're talking, 5-10 minutes for the police to get there.
Well, you're talking that's in a city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the big push for this in Nebraska is because we have a lot of rural areas. And if you're out in a rural area, your response time could be an hour plus.
Yeah.
Well, you get into one of these podunk towns where they have a school and they don't listen. Omaha, Nebraska, San Diego, Los Angeles, Chicago, all these big cities, they may have the funding and they have everything to have resource officers, police response. They can do that. But when you go to Idlewild, California, what's the mayor cat gonna do, or the mayor dog gonna do? Because Mikey's looking at me now. So they may not be able to afford a resource officer and afford all this other stuff there.
Most small communities can't afford a resource officer,
right? Let alone a police officer.
Yeah.
And if the town is so small and they're like,
so here's a perfect example of that. And this is going back into the 90s. I'll date myself. When I graduated high school, I've got a cousin that's my age, and small town in Nebraska. I won't mention the town, but his graduating class was 44.
Oh, wow.
right,
I had high school classes that were bigger than that.
Yeah.
right,
So if you're in a town where your high school graduating class is 44, you can't afford a specific resource teacher because you don't have the tax revenue to make up for it.
Exactly.
right. And you got to think a town that small, they have like a sheriff and a couple deputies.
And they don't even have that.
Do you remember what was it? What was the show with Wild Hogs? Remember Wild Hogs?
Yeah.
And they showed up to that little podunk town, and they had the sheriff and the two things. They're like, we got our qualifications from the internet. They told us to play Doom.
You don't even have that in a lot of these small towns. It's
Right.
They're all patrolled by the county. So that county, which could be huge as far as geographic range,
Right.
might have on duty a sheriff and a couple of deputies, or maybe 3 or 4 deputies. It's not like they've got a lot of people there on duty because that county is, maybe 4 or 5 really tiny towns.
Right.
Exactly.
So they're bouncing from town to town, and the response time is very, very, very long.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, if they're all up in the northwest corner of the county for something, and then there's an emergency in the southeast corner of the county, that could be quite a drive.
Yeah.
So now here's the other thing that we want to make sure that people understand. Again, these laws that are going through, they're like, okay, you're a teacher. Here's your school books. Here's your room number. Here's your 9mm. Here's your magazine. Enjoy your class.
Yeah.
It's not like that. This is not, they're not saying, okay, all our teachers are going to be armed. They're not telling teachers that you have to be armed. What these laws are doing is if the teacher wants to be armed, it's allowing them to do that.
And I will tell you that I would venture to guess that any teacher that takes advantage of this and volunteers for it is someone that is probably already a little bit of a gun enthusiast, probably already have a couple of guns of their own. They go shooting on at least an annual basis.
Right.
potentially have a CCW already.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, it's not going to be someone that's never touched a gun saying, "Oh, pick me, pick me."
Yeah.
But here's the thing: it could be.
It could be, yeah.
It
And you
very
know
well
what?
could be.
Great, more power to them. Let them learn about firearms and firearm safety and get that training.
Yep.
And if any of the if there's any teachers or anybody that is curious on all of this topic, then I would suggest start listening to TAAP. TAAP is going to be coming out pretty soon.
Yeah, pretty soon, if it's not already out, depending on when we start releasing those episodes in relation to this.
Right.
But yeah, we're going to focus on firearm safety. We're going to focus on a lot of concepts and ideas in training. We're going to focus on not just the 4 basic rules of firearm safety, but putting them into practice. What it means to know what's behind your target.
Right.
Yeah.
What it means to handle that firearm safely and check to make sure that there's not a round in the chamber when you get it.
Yeah.
Right. So again, more on gun stuff and all guns related. I'm going to refer you over to the podcast TAAP. That's the American Armory Podcast.
Right.
So good show. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great that they're doing this. It's about
right.
time. So
Definitely. I think it should have been done long ago.
yeah.
Go back to Parkland in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
If they would have had teachers that were armed, how many lives could they have saved? There was the one teacher that sacrificed himself shielding other students. Imagine if he had a firearm. He could have stopped it right there.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being a senior and that Columbine was the year I was my senior year. So it's like, whoa, I'm like, it's been going on forever. Why isn't this like happening sooner?
Right. So I don't know. I think good show. More on gun stuff and all that stuff to TAAP. Now, TAAP is going to be on what platforms?
We're going to be on YouTube and Rumble right now. It's going to be what we're going to launch on.
All right. Well, thank you for being a guest here.
Hey, thank you for having me. It's been a good time.
All right. Now, if you like our show, if you like what we do, you could watch. You could all our social media, right? Facebook, Instagram, X.
Yep. And then, of course, you can listen to us on iHeart, Spotify, Apple, YouTube Music, Amazon, Samsung. I mean, pretty much any player. So
Right. And then as well as TAAP, we're also on YouTube and Rumble, but we also do a little bit of TikTok until it's banned.
Until
So
it gets banned, yeah.
good show.
Good show.
On to the next.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Ooh. Welcome to the Bell Witch Podcast, a show that covers the infamous legend of the historic Bell Witch haunting in southern United States in the 19th century, where the Bell family experienced frightening happenings within their home. Hang on a second. No, that's the wrong Bell Witch. This is a podcast about being a witchy pagan in the 21st century, airing bi-weekly, with different guests on each month sharing their pearls of wisdom and gems of knowledge from their very own witchy businesses. I call it a moot loot. Here we cover a wide range of pagan and witchcraft related topics, from sigils, spells and spirits to Reiki rituals and pagan parenting while camping in the Bell tent named Delilah. It's got nothing to do with the Bell Witch from the 19th century in Tennessee that scared people to death in a little townhouse, which may or may not be true. Pretty cool story, but yeah, it's the wrong Bell Witch. This Bell Witch podcast is brought to you by Swales, the friendly green witch from Leeds, UK. A northern witch with a strong Yorkshire accent, a love of all things weird, spooky, magical, and a smelly dragon named Dave. So tune in every 2 weeks for a sprinkling of Yorkshire magic. Listen to the Bell Witch podcast with me, Swales, a friendly green witch, wherever you get your podcasts.